Hello, and welcome to this year's preview of new features coming to Blackboard. We do one of these sessions every year to coincide with our Blackboard upgrade, which is always well, not always, but generally sometime in May or June, right around Memorial Day weekend. So my name is Stephanie Richter. I'm the Assistant Director of the Faculty Development and Instructional Design Center here at Northern Illinois University, and I'm so glad that you're able to join us today. Before we dig into the new features, I thought I'd give you an update on how Blackboard is being used here at NIU. So as of the fall 2015 semester, 96% of our students are using Blackboard for at least one course, and 92% of faculty, staff, and teaching assistants are at least one course through Blackboard. That accounts for 67% of all course sections here at NIU, and that includes, of course, things like independent studies or doctoral dissertation sections that don't often use Blackboard because they're limited to just one or two students. On average, every student here at NIU has more than 4 courses in Blackboard every semester. So this really goes to show how pervasive use of Blackboard is here at NIU, and how accustomed students are to having it available. You can see over time our use of Blackboard by faculty has grown. So this is looking fall semester to fall semester. And in 2010, we had 75% of faculty using Blackboard, which was phenomenal. So now we're up to 92, and it's been holding steady now for 2 years at 92%. It's wonderful. And we also look periodically at which tools are used in Blackboard. So again, in fall of 2015, the most used tool in Blackboard was the announcements. 83% of courses in Blackboard use the announcements feature at least once a semester. 79% have used items. That's a way to share content. And you'll notice at 52% of courses have also used files. So these are both ways that you can share your files with students to download. 77% of the courses are sharing grades and keeping track of grades through the Grade Center, at least to some extent. 30% are sharing web links, so links to other websites using the web links tool. There might be more courses using web links, but posting them as part of a description within an item, for example, or posting a link in an announcement. This is only tracking if you use that web links feature. And then we have some of the assessment tools clustered here, just squeaking into the top 10. So a large portion of our courses are using assignments or SafeAssign, which is actually the assignment with plagiarism checking turned on. And then in between, we have a lot of courses who are using discussion boards and the Blackboard testing feature. These rearranged a little bit this last year, so announcements, items, grades, and files stay pretty consistent at the top of our top. This is actually top 9, I guess, not top 10, but of our top tools that are used. But the tests and SafeAssign squeaked in this year, where I think last year we had different tools listed there at the bottom. So today we're going to focus on new features in Blackboard Learn 9.1 October 2014 release. Whew, it's a mouthful. Let me parse that for you for a second. So our current version of Blackboard is called Blackboard Learn 9.1. That's to differentiate from, first of all, earlier releases. When I started here at NIU, we were on 7.0, so we've made a significant amount of progress since then. But it differentiates Blackboard Learn 9, or 9.1, from the next generation learning environment that Blackboard is working on developing. You may have seen some previews or some information from Blackboard about this. It's an exciting new streamlined environment. We aren't moving to that yet, and it will probably be quite a while before we do. But for now, Blackboard Learn 9.1 is essentially their classic interface. And then October 2014 release is a specific service pack that provides, quite frankly, quite often bug fixes to solve bugs that are existing in Blackboard, but also to release new features or enhancements to existing features. So October 2014 release is the specific version of Blackboard Learn 9.1 that we're going to. You can always find more information about Blackboard at our Teaching with Blackboard site, which is niu.edu/Blackboard. But if you're interested in information specifically about the upgrade, then go to niu.edu/Blackboard/upgrade to get the rundown on what is new this year. So our upgrade in 2015 had quite a few new features, actually. And I'll run through a couple of these that you may not have been aware of if you didn't attend one of these sessions last year. So one of the most exciting features is the student preview mode. In any Blackboard course where you're an instructor, there's this icon that looks kind of like an eye in the upper right corner of your course. When you click that, you go into a student preview mode. This is much better than previously. You were able to turn edit mode on and off. When edit mode was on, you were in instructor mode. When edit mode was off, you sort of saw what students see. Well, here with the student preview mode, you're actually in a student. In fact, Blackboard creates a temporary student account for you that goes into your roster as long as you're in student preview. This lets you see exactly what students see. You can actually take assignments or submit assignments, take tests, view grades, all of the things that a student would do. When you leave student preview mode, you're asked if you want to keep the data or dump the data, delete the data. If you choose to keep the data, that student as a preview user actually stays in your course. So then you can continue to take assessments over time, you can enter grades, and really see how that student progresses and see what it looks like from a student's perspective as those grades come in. Another feature that changed last year was SafeAssign quit being a standalone separate type of assessment and instead became an option that you enable for a regular assignment. So when you're setting up an assignment, if you open the submission plagiarism tools and check submissions for plagiarism using SafeAssign. In the past, then, when SafeAssign was separate, it had a limited feature set, so you couldn't use rubrics, you couldn't have group assignments, you couldn't grade it the same way. Now, SafeAssign functions exactly the same as an assignment, but if you assign when you're grading it, you can open your plagiarism report to see what percentage of the student's content matches other sources. So this was a fairly small change, making this a layer over the assignments. It does the same types of plagiarism checking that SafeAssign did before, but you get all of the extra features that assignments had that SafeAssign did not. We also last year turned on the MyEDU student profiles. This is a social layer in your course, or across Blackboard, not only in your course, that lets you and your students set up personalized profiles, and for students, lets them build out a profile for job searching as well. With MyEDU, the students' profiles actually go with them when they leave NIU and leave Blackboard, so they can continue to use those profiles as they are searching for employment. But within Blackboard, within your courses, when you and your students set up a profile that has a profile photo, that photo becomes your avatar throughout Blackboard. So for example, when you set up a profile photo, students can see your photo when you post to the discussion board. They can see each other's photos on the discussion board as well. And when students have set up photos, you can see their photos on the roster and in certain views of grading as well. So from that perspective, the small step of creating a profile creates a lot of added community in your course, where suddenly everyone feels connected to one another because you can see each other. At least you see and know what that person might look like. Or if they've uploaded a photo of something important to them, you can see a photo of something that connects them in a real way to you. So we highly recommend setting up your user profile. And you do that by, normally in Blackboard, you would click on your name here in the upper right. That drop-down arrow is actually a menu. And that menu has a set of icons just like the ones here on the left. So if you open the menu and then click on your silhouette, it'll be just a blank silhouette at the top. That will walk you through setting up your profile. I've set up mine, and I actually, in my course, I have an announcement early on, and I recommend that all my students set up their profiles as well. So that's it for 2015. I just wanted to highlight a couple of cool features that you might not have been aware of so that you can go forward and continue using those features that are already available. This year for 2016, we have just a couple of features that are new that we will be taking a look at. So first, one of the most exciting new features is actually what we're in right now. It's Collaborate Ultra. So in the past, we've been using Blackboard Collaborate here at NIU since the fall of 2011. We started piloting Collaborate. Before that, we were using a tool called Wimba, but Blackboard purchased Wimba and another competitor called Illuminate, combined what they were offering into Collaborate. And all courses at NIU have had access to Blackboard Collaborate to provide rich synchronous web conferencing environments for their courses. Now, however, Collaborate has been upgraded to Collaborate Ultra. This year, 2015-16, we stayed with the traditional Collaborate in courses, but faculty could request Collaborate Ultra if they wanted to do so. This semester, starting with this summer, Collaborate Ultra will be embedded within all courses. So there'll be what's called an LTI. It's just a link in your tools where you can go in to access your Collaborate Ultra session, and so can your students. So Collaborate runs on a new architecture from Classic Collaborate. It runs, as you can see, directly in the browser, whereas with old Collaborate, Classic, we won't call it old, we'll call it Classic. Classic Collaborate that ran the session. Well, now that it's running on WebRTC, which is what most modern video chat programs use, you need to have Java. There's no launching file. There's nothing to download. It works on any browser, and internally it adapts to each user's connection speed in order to determine what level of video quality or audio quality you should receive and how many videos should be visible to you. So if we didn't have slides here, then we could see multiple student videos as well. There's also this slick new interface. So instead of the heavy, clunky interface with modules and a lot of boxes, Blackboard Collaborate Ultra is designed to put the focus on the content, whether that is, in this case, the slides that we're all viewing, or in the case of a more open discussion, then on all of the user videos in a grid format so we can all see each other. Video is broadcast in HD quality. So you may notice I sound really crisp, and my video, if it weren't so small, would look really good. And as I said, it focuses on either the slides, the whiteboard, or the application share that's going on. Or with Follow the Leader video, the speaker, whoever is currently speaking has the largest video, and it swaps depending on who is currently speaking. So you can focus on the one who is the most important right then. So we've walked through the Blackboard Collaborate interface on how to participate, but there's one more feature I haven't talked about much, and that is the whiteboard. So in addition to being able to simply display slides, you can also interact with those slides and draw on them to create a diagram. So those tools are in the upper left. You should be able to see those. Let me check my settings. Yes, they are on. So the whiteboard settings in the upper left corner above the slide have an arrow, a pointer, a pencil, a square, and a T for typing. I'm going to give us a chance to play around with those. So here's a nice big white space. If you click on the pencil icon and then click on the colored circle that appears, you can choose a color and draw right on the slide. So go ahead and take a second to do that. Click the pencil, choose a color, and then draw something. No, big X's. I'm going to draw a tree, I think, because that's about as much mouse control as I have for drawing. And then, oh, someone crossed out my tree. So then the next thing you can try are the shapes. Let me clear all of this. So next to that, you can draw a rectangle, an ellipse, or a line. When you click on the square, it will ask you what shape you want. And then again, you can choose a color. So go ahead and do so and draw a couple of shapes. If you don't like where it's placed, you can switch back to the arrow, the pointer, and then click on your shape and move it. You can do, I think, some resizing from the corner. If you can grab a corner, then you can make that shape bigger or smaller. Excellent. I think we've mastered the shape. So I'm going to clear this. And now we can try out typing. So again, the same idea. You click on the T, you choose a color, and then you can type right on the slide. Go ahead and everyone give that a try. Once you've typed, enter in order to send it to us. I like the smiley face. Kudos for someone with some emojis. Excellent. I'm going to draw a circle around that because I like it. So the whiteboard is a great way to take what would be a fairly static lecture, perhaps, where you're just displaying some slides and talking, and it lets you build in some more interactive activities. So someone commented the words are small. If you grab, again, if you use the pointer to click on it, and then hold the corner, you can make them much bigger. How's that for small words? There's a very big word. So I've used this with essentially to recreate a polling option where I give the students a grid. Let's give this a try. So let me draw a quick grid for you. And this will be, you like it, here you love it. Maybe you like the classic better, or you don't like web conferencing in general. So here are 4 grids. If you put a mark in the grid that you agree with as to how much you like Collaborate, I'll let you pick the color. You can type your name, you can draw a scribble, and it makes a quick, easy polling activity. So you can have students interacting as part of this. So here I did more of an opinion poll. You could do the same thing with a quiz question. It's obviously, this isn't a graded quiz question, but if you gave students a couple of choices and asked them to voice their opinions or tried to solve a problem, they could do so here in this visual format. So it's a lot of fun. Now, I will point out that Collaborate Ultra is an ongoing work in progress. So when Collaborate was released last summer, they had some core functionality that was in place, but they knew they had a long way to go in developing and adding new features. So here was where they were in July of 2015. They had, as I said, a lot of the core features, and a lot of the advanced features were in beta or in development or being researched. So since that time, Blackboard Collaborate Ultra has delivered all of these features that were currently in development when Collaborate was released last year. And so now, here's the current roadmap. You'll notice there aren't any timelines on when specific things will become available, but it will let you see how far they've come in adding in those extra features. And it continues to be in development and have things go forward. So for example, they have screenshots of the breakout group functionality, and they're testing it out right now to make sure that it's working so that it can go live. Currently, the best browser to use Collaborate Ultra in is Chrome, because Chrome had the most advanced WebRTC support, but now they're in beta and testing out their WebRTC support for Firefox. And then you'll notice there are a lot of other things that are still coming. So they're building a Blackboard Instructor app where you could actually present a Collaborate session from a mobile device, say your iPod or phone. They're building up capacity to handle more and more participants. So it started at 50, is up to 100 now, and they're working on getting it up to 250 soon and eventually up to 1,000 participants. There's a polling option that is in development, or I think they're right now listing it as in research. But it's one of the next features that they're actively developing, so that instead of using my grid-based whiteboard poll, you can go back to the way that the classic one worked with the, a drop-down menu where students can make a selection to answer a poll that way. And then they're adding more features to the whiteboard. They're giving live feedback was the option where students could give a smiley face or a sad face or a thumbs up, a thumbs down, a go faster, go slower. They're building that in shortly. They're working on a way that you can actually display videos for everyone to watch as opposed to just a slide, and a number of other features. Right now there is already a live captioner support for a transcriptionist to provide closed captioning for those who need it, but they're building in sign language interpreting, or they're researching it right now. And one of my favorite ones is they're working on a way to edit recordings before you share those out with students. So lots of really cool things that Blackboard is currently researching or currently developing that will be added into Collaborate Ultra over the next 6 months to a year. It is because they've built it on a lighter architecture, they can make these types of changes much more easily to Collaborate Classic. So I hope you are just as excited as I am about these new features that are coming. Right now, Blackboard Collaborate Ultra is available by request, so if you wanted to try it out with your students, you can let us know, and Dan Cabrera will be in touch with you with a link as well as some training so that you know how to get started with it as a presenter. Following the upgrade in May over Memorial Day weekend, then Collaborate Ultra will be available in courses directly. The second feature that's really cool that I hope you'll like is the Goal Performance Dashboard. This builds on the Goals and Alignments feature that has been available in Blackboard for now. So Goals and Alignments allows you to align your content and your assessments against specific standards that are assigned to course. So for example, here I have a book review. You get to the alignments by clicking the drop-down arrow that's next for editing, and then choose Add Alignments. When you do so, you can select the alignments that you would like to have associated with that assignment, or we'll talk about all the different things you can align. And whether or not that would be visible to students, this slash means that it isn't, but you can make these visible so students know how their course is aligned. This is particularly useful for several reasons. It helps students see how the course is meeting the goals that they're supposed to be as part of their program. And it helps you make sure that your course is meeting those same outcomes. And for programs that go through significant accreditation review, it helps because you can pull data out on the back end to show that your students are actually achieving those goals. This is what the actual new part of this feature looks like. This is the Goal Performance Dashboard. So here, this lists each of the standards. This is for one student. So this is one student's progress against these goals. So on this goal 5.1, they're 100% right now, and based on one assignment, assessment, there's another assessment that has not yet been attempted. Here, 5.2 is based on, again, 1 out of 1 assessment this time, and the student isn't doing as well. And for 5.3 and 5.4, their performance is even lower. So the goal performance dashboard is visible to you for each of your students, and it's visible to each of the students. None of this data is here unless you have aligned your course against a set of standards. So until you do that, then there is no data to drive this. But when you create those associations, then it really becomes a powerful tool for students to track their progress and for you to see whether or not your students are meeting the outcomes that they're supposed to. So the goal performance dashboard can aggregate the performance data from really any assessment in your course. So it can include data from rubrics that you've associated with an assignment or a discussion board or a grade center column, even down to the individual criteria level. So if you haven't used the interactive rubrics feature that's built into Blackboard, I highly recommend it in general because it makes it much easier to grade assignments and to do so quickly, but still give students a really detailed level of feedback. Then when you're using that rubric, you can then add these alignments to it to add that extra layer of data. If you use the Blackboard testing feature, you can add alignments to a test, or you can add them to individual test questions, which lets you become really granular and detailed about how that alignment comes together. As I mentioned, you can use them for assignments or safe assignments if you've added SafeAssign plagiarism checking to your assignment. You can align grade center columns. That's particularly useful if you aren't having students submit anything. Perhaps they're giving a presentation in class, or you're observing some task, whether that is observing them in teaching or in a clinic or in a lab. Anytime they're not actually turning something in through Blackboard, you can still align a grade center column. And then you can also, any of the interactive tools that you can turn on grading and add alignments to as well, such as discussions, blogs, wikis, and journals. So there are a lot of different sources of data that this can aggregate. On the goal performance dashboard, as I said, you view it per student, so you can see each student's progress. But you can also run course reports that aggregate the data across all of the students in your course. That will help you see how your course is doing overall in each of the standards that you've aligned in your course. And then at the system admin level, you can request a report be run against all of the courses in the system in order to see how students are doing on those standards overall. So, for example, if your program has an accreditation and you want to be able to to submit essentially student achievement on any of the required criteria or required standards that your program has to meet, you can do so by requesting this report on your program standards and see each student on each standard in an Excel format to see how all of the students are doing overall. This is the type of feature that you don't use casually, but for programs that need this level of detailed feedback, or for general education assessment against our baccalaureate goals, this type of data really does make a huge difference in trying to assess the effectiveness of a program or of our general education courses against meeting our baccalaureate goals. So then I told at the very beginning, Isabel is going to hold her in suspense briefly. There is an update around spell check, and it is the minorest, probably the most minor of details that will have the biggest impact on you. So now, my arrow moved. Well, that would have been cool. All right, I'll draw a new one. So spell check is now on by default. In the current system, there is a spell check, but you have to click the spell check button in order to get it to actually assess whether or not your text is spelled correctly. Now it's on by default, so anytime you go into the spell check editor, it will automatically add these little squiggles to let you know which words are spelled incorrectly. Yes, Isabel, it is the coolest. I am with you in your squeeze of glee. Like I said, it's a tiny detail to say that now the spell check is on by default. but it will have such an impact on students who use the discussion boards to make sure that their posts are spelled correctly. And it will have a big impact for you as you are posting content and announcements in your course so that you know that your work is spelled correctly. Yes, Isabel, I am so glad. Unfortunately, it wasn't something that was available until this October 2014 release. So now that we're there, it is on, and it is on by default. Enjoy, all of you. So that's it, actually, believe it or not. Those are all of the new features that are available in the 2014 October release. It is a minor update, so you won't see any broad sweeping changes. Everything you've been doing will still work, and it will be familiar because it will not have really changed. I'm going to take a step off the deep end here for a second, though, because I want to show you something that we're currently testing. I have no idea if this will actually make it into production, so I want to preface all of this with this is just an experimental testing feature. I personally think that it would be useful, but there are some caveats as to how this will work. So we're going to talk about the Quickly attendance tracking feature. So Quickly is a company, this is an extra tool that we have temporarily enabled for a trial period. We have a very short trial period in order to test this out. So Quickly lets you quickly take attendance. So the attendance feature is something you would find under Course Tools. It's not available in all of our courses right now, but if you want to try it out, send me an email and we can add you to the group of courses that are testing this. So when you go to Tools and Quickly Attendance, this lets you take attendance. So here, I have my list of students. I can mark them all present. I can then mark any of them absent who don't happen to be here today. And I can then, this will feed into the grade center as well as into an attendance report. So how I want to take attendance and how I want it to count for a grade, or if I want it to count for a grade, all customizable. As easy as it is here, I want to point this out again, to just click for each student as to whether or not they're here. You actually have two options for how you take attendance. You can use a list where you see an alphabetical list of your students and you can just mark them off. Or you can do it one by one where each student's name is projected on your screen and you can call that student. They can say here or not. Well, I guess they wouldn't say they were not here, but if they're here, then they can indicate so, and you can mark them off. So at any time, you can change this setting if you want it to be a list or one by one, but you can choose however you would like to take attendance. There's one more option as well that I'll get to in a minute. So then you can identify your grading scheme, how you grade attendance, including just saying there's no grade for attendance, but I am going to track attendance. So you can have no grade. You have a certain number of points for every time that they're there. This would be akin to, you get a point for every day or 5 points a day. Or you can say there are a certain number of points for the entire semester. Let's say attendance is 100 points, and this will divide that up so that every time they miss a certain number of points. If you have a different style of attendance tracking, it's probably best to either set it to 1 point per time they're there so you can get a total of how many days they were there. You can exclude that from Grade Center calculations in the Grade Center, so it's not actually changing their grade, but you can get a number for how many days they were there. Or say take no grade for attendance, but you will get an attendance grid, a report, that will show you each student and whether they were absent or present every day. And then you can also allow students to check themselves in. I love this feature. What this does is it allows you to, there are a couple of different options, but students check themselves in from a mobile device or a laptop to say that they're there. Now, when you do that, you can just allow students to check in. And then what that means is once you've opened check-in, any student can check in. They log into Blackboard, they access the Quickly attendance tool, and just mark themselves as checked in. You can restrict that a little bit by saying that yes, you'll allow students to check in, but they have to enter a code that you have projected at the front of the screen. This is to prevent students from checking in when they're not in the classroom. With both of those options, you can set a countdown timer that says, I'm going to give students 30 seconds or 1 minute to check in, because that's enough time for a student to log in, check in, grade, mark themselves, put in the randomly generated code, but not necessarily enough time for them to then send a text message to their friend with that code so the friend who's at home or at work or someplace other than in class can actually mark themselves there. So giving them a timer restricts the amount of time that they have in order to try to cheat. But you can also not allow that check-in, in which case attendance can only be entered by you at the front of the room. So Isabel, that's a great question. So by the way, here I want to show you, this is what the check-in looks like. The upper left is the instructor view. It shows that randomly generated code. And then the lower right is the student view when they access the attendance tracker, where they type in the code and then click check-in. So Isabel, here's what it looks like. Whether or not you're grading, you get an attendance report here in the upper left. So with this, the reason that this is different than the performance dashboard is the performance dashboard tells you whether or not they've accessed Blackboard. This is more specific to whether or not they've checked in or you have marked them as there for class. So this would be more for a live classroom setting, whether that's face-to-face or synchronous online like this. But it doesn't track their usage of Blackboard, if that makes sense. So if you aren't grading it, you can generate an attendance report. And again, I have the instructor attendance report at the left and the student report at the right. So as the instructor, I can see all of the students' names here. And then I've only tracked it for 2 days, but I can see the attendance that's been marked over here. So I can see Willa Cather hasn't shown up at all. Louisa Alcott showed up to both classes. And then I can edit this. If I've had an error, if Willa Cather was actually there, after attendance has been closed, I can click this pencil icon to open it for editing. I can make my changes by clicking the cells and then save it again. I can also export this. I believe it exports to an Excel spreadsheet. And then as a student, the students can all see their own attendance report as well. So as a student, I can see Louisa Alcott, this will be her report. She can see she was marked there twice. And it really puts more, it gives you more control over taking attendance. It makes it much easier to track than keeping spreadsheets or multiple grade center columns. And it gives students very clear data for themselves on whether or not they have attended. There are also actually options I didn't even show you around emailing students. So Quickly has a feature where if students are marked as absent, Quickly can automatically email them to let them know they were marked as absent and suggest that they attend class because it has an impact on their grades. So you can enable or disable that as you would like, but you can have it set so that students automatically are notified that they were absent from class. So yes, Isabel, it's not particularly helpful for the asynchronous discussions. This is more for taking attendance in class. Absolutely. So then Quickly also saves an attendance grade in the grades. So here you can see at 5 points per class, Louisa Alcott has been here twice. Willa Cather was not here at all, and the others were only here once. That's a very odd behavior for class attendance, but I wanted to at least demonstrate how it aggregates that data. It does keep it as only one column in the grade center, which is very nice and tidy, but you can view that full attendance report at any time using the Quickly Attendance tool. So there are clearly a lot of advantages. There are numerous studies that show a clear link between students attending class and students being successful in that class. So we want to encourage student attendance as much as possible. And for faculty and instructors, we want it to be as easy as possible for you to to track attendance in order to encourage that students attend. Quickly is currently being tested. The drawback is it does have a license, but it has a very small license fee. So right now we're searching to make sure, we're testing it to make sure that it would be useful, that there would be a use case for offering this. And then we'll need to petition various people across campus to find someone who's willing to pay for it. So that's why I'm going out on a limb and saying that this is not yet available, and it may not be available. But if you are listening, if you're here in the session and you would like to give this a try for one or more of your courses, send me an email. We have, I think, about 30 days left in our trial. So you could try it out for the rest of the semester at least once, just to tell students, hey, we're trying to see if this works. Bonus points if you check in for today, or no bonus points. I just want to see if it works. And give us your feedback on whether it's easy to use and something that you would be considered using. So that's it. We have really two new features, Collaborate Ultra and Goal Performance Dashboard, which are really awesome features. We have spell check being on by default, which is a tiny feature but going to make such a big difference in all of your courses. And then we have the Quickly attendance tracking tool, which we are testing and may not become available depending upon funding availability. But I wanted to let you know something that's cool out there that we're giving a try. Again, you can always find more information about Blackboard at niu.edu/Blackboard and about this upcoming upgrade at niu.edu/Blackboard/upgrade. The upgrade is slated to happen Memorial Day weekend. There will be a short outage of, well, a fairly long outage of a day or two when Blackboard will be unavailable. You will not be able to log in. But then after the upgrade, we'll have more workshops this summer on Blackboard itself and on some of the tools which will then be available. So I want to thank all of you for attending today and save some time here for some extra questions if you have them. You can always reach me at my email address, which is there on screen, and ask questions at a later date as well. So again, thank you all, and have a great day.